Welcome back to The Unwritten Life, the life of Claire. Let's pick it up in chapter 12, The Devil's Shadow. So the harmony that Claire found with Leo, built on a steady principle of temperance, was a profound comfort. Her new life, once a daunting black canvas, was now vibrant with color and purpose. The old self-created prison felt like a distant echo, almost entirely silenced. Yet, even in the brightest light, shadows can linger, and sometimes the chains aren't completely broken until you face the very last one. Well, Claire had been thriving, taking on more responsibilities with the community garden project, her artistic talents blooming under the city's inspiration, her connection with Leo deepening daily, a quiet understanding passing between them that felt more solid than any words. He was her anchor, her fellow creator, and her quiet confidant. But then a subtle shift began. It wasn't a dramatic effect, but a creeping sense of unease, a familiar shadow that started to fall over her newfound joy. It began with subtle things, a twinge of resentment when her project collaborators made a decision without her input. Flash of defensiveness when Leo gently questioned one of her ideas. An uncharacteristic surge of possessiveness over her blooming friendships. These feelings felt old, echoing the very insecurities that had built her prison in the first place. The fear of not being enough, the need for control, the subtle ways that she allowed external validation to dictate her worth. Well, one evening, after a particularly frustrating day, where a long-term client from her old, mundane life called with an unreasonable demand, Claire found herself back in her tiny apartment, that familiar knot in her stomach tightening. She felt a surge of cold fury, desire to lash out, to control the narrative, to retreat. It was the whisper of her old self, the one who found security and protection in pushing people away. But later, Leo found her in her apartment, not sketching, but staring blankly at her phone, the contact name of an old client glowing accusingly on the screen. He sat beside her on the small sofa, not asking, just being there. He reached for her hand, his thumb gently stroking her knuckles. "Claire, what's got you so tied up?" he asked, without judgment. Claire sighed, the words tumbling out, laced with a bitterness that she hated hearing in her own voice. She recounted the client's impossible demands, the feeling of being taken for granted, and then, surprisingly, she started talking about other things, faint whispers of self-doubt that still tried to undermine her triumphs. The subtle impulse to control situations and people, the fear that if she didn't grasp tightly, everything she built might just slip away. She spoke of the little ways that she still felt bound by old habits, by ingrained insecurities, even as she yearned to be completely free. But Leo listened patiently, his gaze unwavering, full of that quiet understanding that she so treasured. When she finished, he didn't offer immediate solutions. Instead, he simply picked up a small, intricate carven figure from her shelf, a piece that she had bought from his shop. He turned it over in his hands, tracing its lines. Sometimes, he said, the strongest change aren't forged by others. They're the ones we hold on to ourselves because they feel familiar, even when they hurt. He looked at her then, his eyes deep and clear. Claire, the real freedom isn't just walking away from a place. It's letting go of the need to control every outcome, every perception. It's letting go of the fear that you're not strong enough to simply be. He was speaking of the last of her self-created prison, the invisible bonds of fear and control that still try to ensnare her. Claire recognized it then. This wasn't an external enemy, but an internal one. This was the devil. Not a literal demon, but the embodiment of her own shadow self, the ego's grip, the lingering addictions to comfort, control, and self-doubt that still sought to bind her, even in the midst of her beautiful, free life. Well, Leo gently took her hand again, lacing his fingers within hers. His touch was firm, grounding, a silent promise of support. You've already broken so many chains, Claire. This is just the last one that you have to choose to unfasten yourself. And you're strong enough. I know you are, Claire. Well, in his quiet strength, in his unwavering belief in her, Claire felt a surge of courage. The shadow was still there, a tempting darkness, but it no longer felt insurmountable. With Leo by her side, helping her to truly see these final, self-imposed limitations, she knew she was ready to face this last, most intimate battle for her freedom. She was ready to finally, completely break free. And this, my friends, is our devil. I will see you in the next chapter. Bye-bye.